share with you the science behind a personal experience I encountered. What I'm going to present was actually funded by the NIH. I was part of the team. So the key concepts I will talk about today is that ethnicity is not the same as race, and why personalized medicine is not as good a word as precision medicine. And that when we ask for equal treatment, we are not really also asking for similarity of treatment. So ethnicity is really based on language, culture, and cuisine, not genes. So like me, I was raised in a French-speaking country, so I'm Chinese, but of French ethnicity. Race is based on genes. And similarly, personalized medicine can be misconstrued as tailoring a care based on an individual. And because we have 6 billion individuals in the world right now, that's an impractical proposition. So when we talk of precision medicine, we talk of accuracy and precision, like on the bottom right. So it's used in a colloquial sense, not in a scientific sense. And it's already addressed by the White House. So President Obama started an initiative in 2015, of which Medicine X has also participated in. You can see Dr. Chu here. I'm going to present a case study. So Propofol sedation, you're supposed to breathe spontaneously through the procedure, a painful procedure. And if too much of the Propofol is given, you're going to lose the ability to breathe. And if nobody knows how to breathe for you and put a tube in your throat, you're going to have a bad outcome. Like this case, unfortunately, in 2004 in Florida, where this young woman went in for breast augmentation and came out dead because the surgeon who administered Propofol didn't know how to intubate her. And she was not alone, as documented by Mr. Ayer, who had all these different cases in his book, and he wrote the book because his daughter, Julie Ayers, putting a face on this tragedy, also died from Propofol sedation. So no two patients are identical, and patient variability is the norm. And towards that, we publish a paper this year, and if you look at this graph, on the bottom is concentration of Propofol, and each one of those lines is a different race. So whites on the bottom, and if you look at it, this tells you the whole story about variability. This line here shows 5% of whites will lose consciousness at this concentration, which is lower, about 1.5. 50% will lose consciousness here, and 95% will lose consciousness here. So there's a huge variability. We are not all the same. And then between races, you can see that Chinese, blacks, and Indians are more sensitive to Propofol than Caucasians. But most of the guidelines for dosing Propofol have been done in countries with primarily Caucasian populations. To find out what we don't know, we ran a study in my academic health center at the University of Florida, and we had 37 anesthesiologists give Propofol to 3 patients of different races, Caucasian, Indian, South Asian, and African American. The patients had the same weight, same gender, and same age. The only thing that was different was the race. And now we know what we don't know. All the patients were given the same dose of Propofol based on weight. Race was not considered. So the treatment was race blind. In general, we want that, but in this case, we don't want that. As a result, the Indian patient was unconscious for a longer period of time than the Caucasian, and took longer once the procedure was done, it was an endoscopy, to recover. To make sure our results were appropriate, we ran the same study at a national meeting instead of a little college town in the southeast, and we got the same results. So my own personal experiential learning, I had a Propofol for colonoscopy. I was supposed to wake up at 11, I woke up at 12, an hour later, and later on when I had a repeat, we found out I was given 3 times the dose I actually needed. So we talk about silos. So if you look at the package insert for Propofol made in India to be consumed in India, the recommendation is 20 milligrams versus 40 milligrams for North America. So the Indians know this, but it's local knowledge that is not being shared. So for that purpose, we've created a point-of-care app for mobile phones to help people in dosing Propofol appropriately for different patients. And my parting comment is that in proposing race-specific dosing, I'm not being a racist. It's about patient safety and quality of care. And equality of treatment should not be similarity of treatment. We should treat according to what the patient needs, not according to a warped notion that everybody should get the same dose. And quality of care is not necessarily incompatible with quantity, because if I give just the right dose, the patient wakes up at the right time, then my resources can be used for more procedures per day. Whereas if I'm sloppy, then I will not do as many procedures. And then precision medicine, we talk a lot about it. A lot of people think about this as being with genetic analysis. Here, this is the poor man's genetic analysis. I don't need to do a DNA on you to figure out you're probably Caucasian and you're probably from the Indian race. And so that's my concluding remarks. So precision medicine can be done right now. It doesn't have to be high-tech. And it's something we should start. We should start by walking instead of running. Thank you.
Thank you for that talk. So, because we're looking at this massive agenda, and the world is very much looking at America's work, what you're going to be doing with the PMI initiative, it's going to be really exciting. But from what you were saying as well, there's a lot that can be done before we don't have to go down the genomic test route.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and what sort of feedback have you gotten from clinicians and other audiences?
I've actually got a lot of affirmation of what we saw. So I have a colleague who moved to Florida but worked 10 years in San Francisco, where he gave anesthesia to a lot of Chinese Americans. And when I prefaced my observation that it's anecdotal, he said, this is not anecdotal. I've lived it for 10 years. So when he gives anesthesia to a Chinese patient, he starts very low because he knows they are sensitive. But unfortunately, like one of the keynote speakers said, there's a lot of local knowledge that even though now we live in this hyper-connected world, it doesn't get out there. And that's what we're trying to do, is get it out there.
Oh, well, thank you very much for bringing the story to the MEDEX stage. And Medicine X will certainly help get your story out. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.